Okay, picture this. You're standing in front of one of those massive stone pyramids in Central America.
Right.
The humidity is about 100%.
Hmm.
The jungle is just screaming with noise, and it's 1,000 years ago. You see a Maya priest at the top looking at the sky.
Okay.
Now, be honest. What's the first thing you assume he's doing?
Well, if we followed the standard history book narrative, most of us would probably say he's looking for gods.
Exactly.
Or, maybe just trying to figure out when the rainy season starts so the corn harvest doesn't fail.
Right. And I have to play devil's advocate here immediately. Isn't that a fair assumption? I mean, we tend to think of ancient astronomy as, well, quaint.
A little naive.
A little naive, yeah.
Yeah.
We assume it's just mythology mixed with some basic farming tips. But then we look at our astronomy today, modern astronomy, and it's all high-tech telescopes, satellites, spectral analysis. It's rigorous. It's real science. So why should we give the time of day to a system that didn't even know Neptune existed?
And that is the big question. Modern science is incredible, obviously. I mean, it's given us this map of a universe that's vast, expanding, billions of years old, but it also comes with a psychological price tag.
How so?
It paints a picture where the universe is this cold, indifferent void, and we're just accidental tourists.
Accidents on a rock spinning in the dark. It definitely makes you feel like an alien in your own galaxy.
Exactly. But what if that naive, ancient view wasn't naive at all? What if they weren't just looking for rain gods, but were actually tracking a rigorous mathematical system that describes the very fabric of reality?
A system that puts us back into the picture.
Puts us right back in the center of it.
Okay, that's a huge claim. You're saying they had a system that, rivals modern science, but just uses different tools?
That's the mission of this deep dive. We're unpacking a really fascinating body of research. It's based on 20 years of analyzing Maya and Aztec calendars, and the argument here is bold.
Awesome.
It says that ancient cultures had a scientific system of astronomy that we've largely misunderstood because we're looking at it through the wrong lens. They didn't see space as an empty void to be measured linearly. They saw it as a trauma.
Trauma. Now, I know a little Spanish, and that usually translates to the plot of a story or a weave, right, like fabric.
Yes. In this context, think of it as the weave or the grid. The source material uses the Spanish term trauma to describe the structural integrity of the cosmos.
So the idea is?
The idea is that the Earth, Moon, and Sun are actively weaving a specific structure of space-time. And this web, it dictates not just where the planets go, but the patterns of life itself.
So less like a vacuum and more like a fabric.
Oh.
But we're going to understand this web. We need to understand their tools. And looking at the research, it seems like it all comes down to a single number.
The matrix of 1440.
Matrix of 1440.
This is the foundation.
To the modern ear, 1440 sounds like a random lottery number. Why is this so significant?
It sounds random until you look at a simple analog clock. How many minutes are in a single day?
Well, 24 hours
Yeah.
times 60 minutes.
Yeah.
That's 1,440.
Precisely. Now, this is where you have to really shift your thinking. Modern science uses degrees to measure circles 360 degrees.
Right.
But the ancients, they measured the circle of the sky in minutes. And here is the crucial insight, the thing that unlocks their entire system. In this ancestral matrix, 1 minute of space equals 1 minute of time.
Wait, hold on. You lost me a bit there. 1 minute of space equals 1 minute of time. That sounds poetic, but how does that actually work? Does that mean distance is time?
Think of it like this. You're driving on a highway with cruise control set perfectly. If you're driving at exactly 60 miles per hour, then 1 mile of distance takes exactly 1 minute of time to cover.
Okay, follow that. Yeah.
In that very specific scenario, distance and time are interchangeable. You can say the exit is 10 miles away or the exit is 10 minutes away, and it means the exact same thing.
So the ancients viewed the entire cosmos as moving at a constant cosmic speed.
Yes. They built a grid of 1,440 units where the position of a planet in the sky, that space, told you exactly where you were in the cycle of the day or year. That's time.
So the sky was basically a giant clock face.
A giant 360-degree clock face where every movement was a tick of time. And this allows you to map planetary movement not as a straight line, but as a cycle.
Which is a huge shift from how we usually think. We're so used to thinking of time as a straight arrow. The past is behind us, the future is ahead, and you never go back.
That is linear time. Ancestral science viewed everything as cyclical and whole. The unit wasn't a second that just ticks away and is gone forever. The unit was a cycle.
A day, a year.
A day, a year, a procession. It was seen as a sacred, indivisible whole. You can't have a fraction of a cycle without referencing the whole thing.
The sources mention a specific illustration from the Maya to explain this duality. It describes two men holding a rope.
Yes, and this is a beautiful and critical image for understanding their physics. It shows two men pulling on a rope, pointing at each other. It represents the tension that holds the entire universe together.
The duality of space-time.
Exactly. On one side, you have the solar movement, the orbit around the sun. On the other, the sidereal movement.
And we should probably define that. Sidereal means related to the stars, correct?
Correct. Sidereal time is measured relative to the distant stars, not just our sun. So the rope represents these two opposing forces, these two reference points. They create a dynamic tension that keeps the planets in their lanes.
So it's not just gravity as a magnet pulling things in, it's more like a tug of war.
A perfect tug of war.
But what happens if one of them lets go of the rope?
The tension snaps. The weave unravels. In their view, that's chaos. The planet would just fly off into the void. This tension is what maintains the weave, the trauma.
Okay, so we have the grid, the 1440 matrix. We have the tension holding it together. But to actually use this system, they needed a map. And this is where we get into the calendars.
The Hob and the Zolkin.
The Hob and the Tzolk'in.
And, calendar is almost too weak a word for what they are. These were star charts.
I think most people have heard of the Maya calendar, usually in the context of the world ending in 2012.
Which, spoiler alert, didn't happen.
Right. But let's look at the mechanics. The Hob is the solar one, right?
Yeah, that's the common understanding, yes. The Hob is 365 days. But look at its structure. 18 months of 20 days, plus one short 5-day month at the end called the Wayeb.
Which feels weirdly specific. Why 20 days? Why not 30, like us?
Well, because the number 20 is the base of their mathematics. Count your fingers and toes. But astronomically, the structure represents the Earth's spiral movement of revolution around the sun.
Okay, I want to clarify something. The notes here use the word translation, but in English physics, we usually call the Earth going around the sun revolution or orbit.
You're right. Translation is a term often used in other languages, like Spanish translation, to describe an orbit. But for our purposes, yes, we're talking about the Earth's annual revolution around the sun. The Hob maps that journey.
Got it. So Hob equals Earth going around the sun. But then there's the Tzolk'in. This is the one that usually gets labeled the sacred calendar.
Or the fortune-telling calendar.
Right. It's 260 days. Structure is 13 months of 20 days. Now, for years, researchers thought 260 was just a ritual number. Maybe the gestation of a human baby.
Which is about 9 months, or roughly 260 days.
Which is a cool coincidence, but it doesn't seem like enough to base an entire civilization's astronomy on.
And that's the thing, it's not just a coincidence. This deep dive suggests that Tzolk'in is astronomically precise. The Tzolk'in isn't arbitrary at all. It tracks the precise mechanics of the moon interacting with the Earth.
Specifically.
Specifically, it maps the nodal cycles and eclipses.
So these two calendars, the Hob, which is Earth-Sun, and the Tzolk'in, which is Moon-Earth, they aren't separate things. They're like two.
2 gears in a watch. That is the perfect analogy.
Okay.
Imagine a large gear, that's the Hob, and a smaller gear, the Tzolk'in, spinning next to each other. Their teeth mesh perfectly. Every single day, the combination of those 2 gears gives you a unique coordinate.
So a day isn't just January 24th. It's a specific intersection of solar time and lunar time.
Yes. They lock together to describe the mechanics of the sky. They map the interplay between the Earth's rotation and the moon's orbit. It's a dual system for a dual reality.
And if you know the date in both calendars,
You know exactly where the moon is, where the sun is, and what kind of tension is on that rope.
this brings us to the moon. I feel like in modern astronomy, the moon is treated as, well, a rock, a satellite.
Yeah.
It's there, it causes tides, we landed on it, took some photos, end of story.
We treat it as a separate object, but in ancestral astronomy, you cannot separate them. Earth and moon are a single system. Think of them as a fractal or a family unit traveling around the sun together.
A family you?
And the research highlights 3 distinct cycles of the moon that create this web,
Okay, let's break those down. The first one's obvious, tides. We all learned that in grade school.
the daily interaction. And the sources use this really poetic imagery. The Earth throws its mantle of water over the moon. It's like a constant rhythmic hug. It relates to the Earth's rotation versus the moon's revolution around us.
Okay, the second cycle.
Lunations, the phases, new moon, full moon. This is how the sun sees the moon orbiting the Earth. It's a play of light and shadow.
But then there's the third one, the one that Tzolk'in tracks, the nodal cycle. This sounds a bit more technical, and I think this is where people can get confused. What exactly is a node?
It is technical, but it's the hidden key to the whole system. Visualize this. Imagine the Earth orbiting the sun on a flat tabletop. That's our orbital plane.
Okay.
Now, the moon doesn't orbit on that exact same tabletop. It's tilted. It's oblique.
So the moon spends half its time above the table and half its time below it.
Exactly. So in order to get from above the table to below the table, the moon has to puncture or cross the tabletop. Those crossing points are the nodes. There's a north node going up and a south node going down. Imagine a needle stitching through fabric, up and down.
That's the weaving. That's the trauma again.
That is the physical weaving of space-time. The moon is literally stitching the Earth's path to the sun's path. And this is why eclipses were so massive for these cultures.
Because an eclipse can only happen at the node.
Eclipses only happen at the nodes. An eclipse isn't random. It occurs when the moon is at one of those puncture points at the exact same moment the sun is lined up behind it.
So for the ancients, an eclipse wasn't just scary darkness.
No. For the ancients, an eclipse was a cosmic ceremony. It was a graduation. It's the moment the moon completes a cycle of adulthood, aligning perfectly with its parents, the Earth and the sun.
Wow.
It reveals the very structure of the cosmos. If you can predict an eclipse, you understand the architecture of reality.
That makes a whole naive label seem pretty ridiculous now. They were tracking 3D geometry in their heads without computers.
Just observation, mathematics, and thousands of years of data retention.
But here's where it gets really interesting for me. We've been talking about orbits, math, nodes, gears. It's very physics heavy. But the sources mention that for these cultures, this wasn't just physics.
It was spiritual.
It was spiritual. And I struggle with that transition sometimes. How do you go from hard math to spirituality without it getting, woo-woo?
Well, that struggle is the defining characteristic of the modern mind. We separate science, physics, astronomy from spirituality, soul, meaning we put them in different buildings on a university campus.
Right.
Ancestral culture saw them as one thing, two astronomies for one sky.
As above, so below.
That's the principle. They believe that the mathematical and geometric patterns found in the orbits, the trauma, are identical to the patterns found in biological life and human psychology on Earth.
So the spiral of a galaxy is the spiral of a seashell.
Which is the spiral of the human ear, which is the spiral of our DNA. They viewed the Earth as a 3D fractal of the universe. The way planets orbit mirrors the way life grows and the way the human psyche develops.
It's interesting because you mentioned earlier that modern science is kind of stumbling to this idea.
Yeah.
How so? Because I don't see NASA publishing papers on the human soul very often.
Not NASA, maybe. But look at the pillars of our scientific worldview. Look at Einstein.
Go.
His theory of general relativity describes gravity not as a force, but as the curvature of space-time.
The fabric again.
It parallels the ancestral weave perfectly, and Einstein famously said, God does not play dice. He hated the idea of randomness. He implied an ordered, non-random universe.
Just like the ancients.
Just like the ancients. They didn't believe in accidents.
And on the other side of that coin, you have someone like Carl Jung, the psychologist.
Exactly. Jung brought in the concept of synchronicity. This is the idea that a physical event, like a planetary alignment, corresponds to a psychic event, an emotion, or a spiritual shift.
But not because the planet reaches down and, touches your brain.
No, not at all. But because both the planet and your brain are part of the same fabric.
The same weave. If you pull a thread on one side of the cloth, the pattern moves on the other side.
Precisely. Jung talked about archetypes. And the sources bring up a really tender one here. The moon archetype. Usually in pop culture, we hear moon and we think mother.
Mother Earth, Mother Moon.
Yeah, that's standard trope.
But this deep dive argues that in this ancestral system, the Earth is the mother. The moon is actually the child.
The child.
Think about it physically. It's smaller. It spins around the Earth. It's vulnerable. It wobbles. It grows and shrinks in its phases. It grows under the care of the Earth and the sun. It is a fractal of the human child.
That is such a different way to look at the sky. Instead of seeing a cold rock, you see a relationship, a family dynamic playing out in gravity and light.
And that's the tragedy of the modern view, isn't it?
Yeah.
We have the data, we have the distance, we know exactly how many miles away the moon is, but we've lost the context. We've lost the connection. It's like having the blueprints for a house, knowing every measurement of every single beam, but forgetting that people are supposed to actually live inside it.
That's a great analogy. Modern astronomy gives us the mechanics. Ancestral astronomy gives us the meaning.
So let's bring this down to Earth. What does this all mean for us? For you, the listener, right now, driving your car or washing dishes, Why does it matter if the moon is a child or if space is a weave?
It matters because it changes how you orient yourself. It means we need to rethink our place. We are not lost in an empty, linear void where nothing matters. We are inside a structured, cyclical trauma, a web created by the Earth, moon, and sun.
And those calendars, the Hab and Zolkin, they're not just relics to look at in a museum.
No, they are the user manuals for this web. They show us the rhythm. And if you know the rhythm, you don't fight the current, you swim with it.
It really changes how you look at the concept of being well-informed. Being well-informed usually means knowing the news or the latest tech or the stock market. But maybe being truly well-informed means knowing where you are in the cycle.
Knowing your coordinates in the trauma.
It's a lot to take in, but it's strangely comforting. It makes the universe feel, well, inhabited.
It makes it feel like home.
Before we wrap up, there's one thought I want to leave everyone with. It's something the research hints at, and it's a bit of a brain twister.
Go for it.
If ancient cultures built their entire civilization on the belief that the geometry of the sky dictates the geometry of the soul, and now modern science, quantum physics, psychology, is finally finding those same geometries, have we actually discovered anything new? Or are we just remembering what we forgot?
That is the ultimate question, isn't it? Are we explorers, or are we just picking up the threads we dropped 1,000 years ago?
So next time you see a full moon, don't just see a rock.
Yeah.
See a stitch in the fabric. Thanks for diving deep with us.
Until next time.